Hi, and welcome to another edition of NetworkedAV TV, where we discuss the integration between AV and IT. I'm your host, Tasha Danner, and with me is Josh Rush, VP of Marketing at Autonate. Hey, Josh.
Hi.
Today, our guest is Tim Habedank, the AV Technical Manager at Parsons Technologies. And Tim also worked as the integrator for the Minnesota Twins at Target Field. Hi, Tim.
Hi there.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Great. Thanks for joining us today. So could you tell us just a little bit about yourself and the company you work for?
Sure. So I got started in the AV integration industry back in 2001, and I started as an installer and then a technician. And then for the last 10 years, I've been focused on design, programming, and commissioning of AV systems.
Tim, could you give us a little bit more detail about Parsons Technologies?
Sure. So Parsons Technologies is a division of Parsons Electric, and we're an electrical and technology system provider based in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. And in the technologies division, we provide low voltage technology systems such as network infrastructure, security, mobile solutions, and of course, audiovisual systems.
And so how did you first hear about Dante?
Well, the first time I dealt with Dante was an installation that we did on the East Coast for a racetrack. So WJHW was the designer of the system, and they specified some Dante-enabled products for the racetrack. Digital processors and amplifiers. So we used those products with great success out there. It was a little bit of a learning curve back then. It was in 2011, but really the system came together very easily, very smoothly, and worked really well, and it's still up and working today.
Tim, you were an early adopter of Dante. It sounds like going back to 2011. So what were some of the reasons that you guys decided to use Dante in that installation as opposed to the analog that I'm assuming was at the race course before that?
Exactly. So at the racetrack, obviously it's a pretty big venue, and getting cabling around the racetrack takes a lot of materials and labor to do that, putting in the pathway, conduits, and cable trays, and then hundreds and thousands of feet of cable where they already had existing network infrastructure. So tapping off from that existing network infrastructure allowed us to basically get audio wherever we needed to without installing a lot of extra infrastructure for that.
Tim, the convergence between AV and IT is one of the reasons we developed Dante Domain Manager. It obviously has some security benefits that appeal to the IT department, some of the monitoring and alerting. Can you talk about how you first heard about Dante Domain Manager and why you decided to include it in the Minnesota Twins Stadium?
So the first time I came across Dante Domain Manager was at Infocom, I think maybe 2 or 3 years back. And it really was offering features and solutions that our customers were already looking for. So we do a lot of work with sporting and entertainment venues, and they often have outside production companies coming in, and they will set up their own PA system, but they'll need to integrate with the house system. So in the past, we were doing a lot of analog integrations. Well, that's very limiting. You can still have ground hums and buzzes, and we're limited to just a small number of audio channels that way, or smaller number. But with Dante, obviously, it opens up the world of having a lot of flexibility with audio channels to and from the house system. But that also exposed our installed Dante networks to companies that would only be there for a few days. And what Dante Domain Manager offers us is the ability to at least segment those two Dante domains so that an outside company can come in, plug in, we can send channels back and forth, but they can see their world and we can see our world, and they stay separate. So that feature is one that really a lot of our customers are looking for.
You recently used Dante Domain Manager at Target Field in Minnesota. Can you speak a little bit more about that installation and maybe some problems that Dante Domain Manager helped solve?
Sure. So we did the system, or were involved with the AV system at the stadium. It was built and completed in 2010. So we were involved back then. There was no Dante that was part of the system back then. But as the needs change and the producers want to do different game elements and provide more of a fan experience for those that are in the stadium, it turns out that they need to get audio to and from areas in the stadium that weren't originally planned for audio support. So there was no audio infrastructure installed in a few of these locations. So to put the pathway in and pull the cable would have been many, many thousands of dollars to do this. But instead, by utilizing an existing data drop at this location, we were able to set a network for a Dante enabled input-output box at that location, simply plug into a network port. There was some network configuration that needed to happen to put that onto the Dante VLAN, but with the help of the excellent IT team at Target Field, it was an easy thing to reassign that VLAN. But then we ran into another problem. They have a layer 3 network at the closet out there. So that means every closet has its own subnet. The control room on the opposite side of the stadium was in a different subnet than this location that we needed to add this I/O box. So Dante Domain Manager to the rescue allowed us to bridge these two subnets and pass Dante from one corner of the stadium all the way back to the control room and really save the day without all of that cost of cabling.
So for the last question, we're going to have you peer into your crystal ball and look at the future of AV and IT and where this convergence is going. So if you had to fast forward, say 3 to 5 years, what does the AV industry look like, and what's the state of the convergence with IT?
Well, I think the convergence is going to continue to get deeper and deeper. We now see the smaller devices that just have 1 or 2 channels of audio that are Dante enabled now. And there's the adapters that's able to do that integration for any analog piece of equipment. So essentially, I see almost every device being Dante enabled. The other thing that I'm hoping for is that wireless protocol standards are going to get up to speed with being able to support Dante traffic so that we can have Wi-Fi devices that are Dante enabled. And I'd really love to be back at my desk on my computer, logged into a system, being able to pull audio from any venue across the country or even the world in real time. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Great. Well, those are all noted, and yeah, we'll get back with the engineering team and see if we can make some of those happen.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Tim.
Thank you.